Efe, you cannot run from your husband who owns the sky.
You are probably wondering, how did a simple woman from the city find herself trapped in a magical world with a god? To understand that, we have to go back to 3 weeks ago, to a night that started with music and laughter in the city of Benin. Ife was at a grand gala. It was the kind of party where everyone who is anyone in Nigeria comes to show off. The hall was filled with the smell of expensive perfume and jollof rice. Ife was young and beautiful, with a curvy shape that made any cloth fit perfectly. She was the kind of woman that would make every head turn. She had a smile that could light up a room. But she had no idea that her beauty had caught the eye of someone who was not from this world. Ife was standing with her friends, laughing and feeling happy. But suddenly, she felt a cold shiver go down her back. It was strange because the hall was very hot. She turned around and saw a man standing by a marble pillar. He was the most handsome man she had ever seen. He was wearing a black tuxedo that was cut so perfectly it looked like it was painted on him. And his eyes were dark and piercing. He didn't look like the other rich men there. He didn't have a phone in his hand and he wasn't talking to anyone. He was just watching her. When their eyes met, Ife felt like the rest of the room disappeared. The music seemed to get quiet. He walked toward her with a slow, powerful grace. Every step he took made the glass of water in Ife's hand shake.
Good evening, Ifeoluwa.
Ife was surprised. He didn't know him, so how did he know her? She tried to act cool. She gave him a small smile and said,
"And who are you? I don't think we have met."
You can call me Shongo.
Ife laughed, thinking he was joking. Shongo, like the god of thunder, you must be very confident to take that name. Shongo just reached out and touched her hand. The moment his skin met hers, a huge spark of electricity jumped between them. It was so strong that Ife gasped and pulled her hand away. At that exact moment, all the lights in the grand hall went out. The air conditioner stopped. For a few seconds, it was total darkness. In that silence, Ife heard a sound, not a human sound, but the sound of a massive heart beating under the floor. When the lights came back on, Shongo was still standing there, looking at her. But Ife noticed something scary. All the wine glasses on the table next to him had cracked at the same time. Over the next few days, Shongo began to chase after Ife. He was a perfect gentleman. He sent a driver to pick her up in cars that cost more than houses. He gave her gold jewelry that felt warm to the touch. But the more time she spent with him, the more she noticed that the world around him was not normal. One afternoon, they were having lunch at a very fancy restaurant. A waiter was being very rude to Ife, making her feel small. Ife felt a flash of anger in her heart. Suddenly, the sky outside went from blue to black in 1 second. A massive clap of thunder shook the restaurant so hard that the plates fell off the tables. Shongo just reached across the table and took her hand. "Don't be angry,
Don't be
Ife,"
angry, Efe.
he whispered.
Your heart is too
"Your
powerful
heart
for this
is
place.
too powerful for this place." As soon as he touched her, the sun came back out. Ife started to have terrible dreams. She dreamt of ancient kingdoms and battles in the sky. She saw a woman who looked just like her standing on a throne made of clouds. She began to feel like she was being watched by things she couldn't see. One day, while she was at the market, an old woman with white eyes grabbed her arm. The woman's voice sounded like dry leaves rubbing together.
"Daughter of the soil, the king of fire has found his queen. You must run before the sky claims what is lost."
A god does not know how to love a human without burning them. If you are enjoying this story and you want to know what happens to Ife, please take a moment to hit the subscribe button. Drop a comment below and tell me where you are watching from. Are you in Nigeria, America, the UK? Let us know. One day, Shongo told Ife he had to go to a business meeting. He left her alone in his giant penthouse. Ife was bored and started walking around the house. She found a door at the end of a long hallway covered by a heavy curtain. She opened the door. The room was dark and smelled like ancient dust and rain. The walls were covered with old bronze masks and wooden staffs. In the middle of the room, she saw a large painting. She walked closer and almost fainted. It was a painting of her, but she was wearing ancient clothes and a heavy gold crown. Standing behind her was Shongo, but he looked different. He had an axe in his hand and his eyes were literal flames. If I turned to run, but Shongo was already there. He was standing in the doorway, blocking her path. He didn't look like the handsome man in the suit anymore. He looked like a giant.
You were not supposed to see this yet, Efe.
Who are you? What are you?
I am the one who commands the storm. I am the fire that never dies, and you are mine.
He grabbed her waist and suddenly the room began to spin. The floor turned into smoke and the ceiling turned into a cloud. Ife felt like she was falling through the sky. When she woke up, she was in the kingdom of the gods. This place was beyond her wildest imagination. The sky was not blue, it was a permanent twilight of deep reds, soft purples and glowing oranges. The palace was a mountain of white stone that seemed to pulse with a heartbeat. Ife felt small and terrified. She was kept in a room filled with silk and gold, but it felt like a cage. Shongo would visit her every day. He no longer wore his tuxedo. He wore rich fabrics of crimson and gold, and his presence was so heavy, it felt like the air was thick. Eat, Ife.
This food will give you the strength to survive this realm.
I don't want your
I
food.
don't want your
to go
food. I
home.
want to go home, she would scream, throwing the bowl across the room. But the bowl would simply vanish before it hit the wall and reappear on the table, unbroken. Shongo would only sigh. His eyes were not angry, but full of a long, ancient sadness. The human world is like a candle, Ife. It burns out so fast. I am trying to give you the sun. One morning, Ife found a large basin of silver water in the corner of her room. She looked into it and gasped. It wasn't her reflection she saw. It was her mother, back in Benin City. Her mother was sitting on the porch of their house, holding Ife's favorite photo and crying. Her friends were there too, talking to policemen, looking tired and broken. Ife reached out to touch the water, her heart breaking. "Mama, I'm here," she cried out. But the water just rippled and went dark. Shongo was standing behind her.
It's better not to look. The more you look back, the more it hurts to move forward.
This made Ife even more determined to leave. She began to pretend she was accepting her new life. She talked to the servants like the young boy Kola, who had been taken from the human world years ago. Kola showed her the secret paths of the palace. Kola whispered,
The king is
distracted during the new moon. That is when he must go to the mountain top to feed the thunder. While Shongo was away, Ife made her move. She ran through the palace, past the spirit guards who looked like shadows, and out into the glowing forest. This leads us to that chase I told you about. She ran until her lungs burned. She ran until her feet bled. But a god is everywhere in his own kingdom. When the lightning struck and Shongo appeared in that crater, Ife realized that she couldn't fight him with her legs. She had to fight him with her heart. She stood her ground as he approached.
If you love me,
If you
you
love
will let
me,
me go.
you will let me go, she challenged. Shongo stopped. He looked at her and the sky began to rain, but the rain was warm like tears. "If I let you go, you would die, Ife," he said.
Your spirit has already tasted this world. You would wither away like a flower in fire.
He took her back to the palace, but this time he didn't lock her away. He began to teach her. "You have fire in your blood, Ife," he said. "Your ancestors were the ones who sang to the lightning." He took her to a high balcony and told her to focus on the heat in her chest. For days, nothing happened. Ife felt silly waving her hands at the clouds. But one afternoon, Shongo told her to think of the thing that made her most angry. She thought of the waiter who was rude to her. She thought of being kidnapped. She thought of her mother's tears. Suddenly, a spark, not a small one, but a ball of white flame, shot out of her hand and blew a hole in a stone pillar. Ife stared at her hands, terrified and amazed. "Now you see," Shongo said. "You are not a prisoner, you are a weapon." But as Ife grew stronger, The jealousy of the goddess Oya grew darker. Oya was a being made of wind and storm, and she had been Shongo's favorite for 1,000 years. She hated that a smelly human was now the center of Shongo's world. Oya trapped Ife in the gardens one night. The wind began to howl, and the trees bent to the ground.
You think he loves you?
Oya laughed, her voice like a hurricane.
He loves your power. Once he has it, he will discard you.
Oya attacked with blades made of hardened air. Ife stood up, her eyes turning orange. She let out a scream that sounded like a volcano. A wall of fire exploded from her body, pushing Oya back and scorching the garden. Shongo arrived just as the fire died down. He looked at the destruction and then at Ife. He didn't check on Oya, he went straight to Ife and wiped the blood from her face. This was the final straw for the high gods. The sky above the kingdom turned a sickly green. 3 massive figures appeared in the clouds, the elder gods. There was the god of the deep, whose skin looked like moving water, the goddess of the earth, who was as tall as a mountain, and the king of the winds. Their voices sounded like the earth cracking open.
Shongo, you have allowed a mortal to spill the blood of spirits.
You have shared the secrets of the sky with a creature of dust.
Either she dies to pay for her crimes, or you give up your throne.
Ife looked at Shongo. He saw the fear in his eyes, not for himself, but for her. The walk to the great court was long and silent. The air felt so heavy to crush a normal human, but Shongo held Ife's hand, sharing his strength with her. They stood before the elders.
I will not let her die.
Then you know the price. To keep a mortal, you must become like one. You must give up your immortality.
You will feel hunger.
You will feel cold. You will one day taste death.
Ife stepped forward. No, Shongo, don't do it. You are a king. You are the sky. But Shongo looked at her with so much love it made her heart melt. I have ruled the sky for a long time, Ife, but I have never truly lived until I met you. He stepped into the circle of judgment. The elders raised their hands. Black lightning, darker than the deepest night, struck Shongo. He fell to his knees, his muscles straining, his skin blistering. He screamed as his god power was pulled from his soul. When the light finally faded, Shongo lay on the ground, breathing heavily. He looked smaller, more human. He reached out a shaking hand and Ife caught it. They were married that same night under the 2 suns. The ceremony was a mix of the human and the divine. Human servants played the drums, and spirit dancers moved through the air like smoke. Shongo was no longer the terrifying king of thunder, but he was still a warrior. And Ife was no longer just a girl from Benin, she was the flame of the kingdom. Years later, they say that Shongo and Ifeoluwa still walk between worlds. When the thunder is loud but the rain is soft, it is said that Shongo is protecting his wife. And when you see a sunset that is so red it looks like it's on fire, that is Ifeoluwa smiling back at the world she left behind. This story teaches us that true love is the only thing more powerful than a god's throne. It tells us that sometimes you have to lose your power to find your soul. What do you think? Would you give up everything for love? Drop your thoughts in the comments and don't forget to tell me where you are watching from. I will see you in the next story. Stay blessed.